The morning sun was creeping slowly over the horizon, casting long shadows across the quiet streets. The old church, with its towering spires, stood like a silent sentinel amidst the bustling city. But today, something unusual was about to unfold. As the world continued on its usual path, a curious child stood on the corner, eyes wide with wonder, his mind buzzing with questions that no adult could easily answer. He wasn't just any child. He had questions that could challenge even the most brilliant minds. And then, it happened. There, walking casually past the church, was none other than Elon Musk, the visionary tech mogul, the man who dreamt of Mars, the one who believed that humanity's future lay in the stars. It seemed like any other day, but for young Peter, it was an opportunity he couldn't miss. With no fear and no hesitation, he rushed forward, determined to ask the question that no one had dared ask before. "Why don't you believe in God?" he shouted, a single question, but one that would open the floodgates to an unforgettable exchange. An agnostic tech genius meets an innocent child with the courage to ask the uncomfortable. Little did anyone know, this moment would spark a debate unlike anything Musk had ever encountered, one that would make him question his very beliefs. In this brief interaction, the clash of two worlds would set the stage for a conversation that would leave both of them forever changed. Peter stood in front of Elon Musk, his small frame casting a shadow that seemed far larger than his years. His eyes locked onto Musk's with a mix of awe and something else, an unspoken challenge. He had asked his first question, the one that everyone else was too afraid to ask, but it was only the beginning. Peter could feel the tension in the air, thick with the unspoken weight of their difference in worldview. Elon Musk, the man who had reshaped the future with his technology, the one who could take humanity to Mars, was now face to face with a young boy asking questions that went far beyond rockets and electric cars. Musk took a step back, studying Peter for a moment before responding. His mind, usually focused on the future, seemed momentarily lost in the simplicity of the question. "Why don't you believe in God?" Peter asked again, his voice unwavering, though his heart pounded with excitement. Musk smiled faintly. He was used to being asked about his work, his companies, his goals for space. But questions about faith, that was different. He had never really opened up about it, but in this moment, he found himself willing to try. "Peter, I don't believe in any one religion," Musk began, his voice steady, measured. "I've never felt the need to attach myself to one particular belief system. I believe in the power of science, technology, and reason. Those things are what will help humanity move forward, what will make us better, and, maybe, even help us survive." Peter's brow furrowed. He wasn't satisfied with this answer. He was a child of questions, not of easy explanations. "But if we don't have something to believe in, how do we know we're doing the right thing? What if we're all wrong?" Musk paused, his eyes narrowing slightly, not in irritation, but in curiosity. This was different, a child asking questions with the kind of gravity that most adults never dared. He wasn't sure how to respond at first, but after a brief silence, he spoke again. "Peter, the thing is, we're always trying to be better. We can rely on something that we can prove, something that isn't measurable or quantifiable. That's why I focus on progress, the tangible things, space travel, renewable energy, artificial intelligence. These are things we can understand and improve." Peter looked at him, then down at the ground, as if turning the words over in his mind. Then he looked up, his voice calm, but insistent. "Do you think that's enough? That if we make all these things better, it will make everything okay? What if it's not enough? What if we end up hurting each other more?" Musk's gaze shifted slightly, as if searching for the right words. "I can't say for sure. There's always a risk. But without pushing forward, without taking those risks, we want to know what we're capable of. And that's what's important. We're not just here to survive. We're here to build something better." Peter, undeterred, asked his next question, each one probing deeper into the contradictions he saw. "But don't you ever wonder if we're meant to do something more than just build and invent? Maybe it's not just about what we can do, but about how we live, how we treat each other. Don't you think faith in something bigger than us is what keeps us from making the same mistakes over and over. Musk's expression softened. There was something about Peter's question that struck him. Musk had always seen faith as a relic of the past, something that couldn't keep up with the speed of modern innovation. But Peter wasn't speaking of faith in the traditional sense. He was speaking of something deeper, something that transcended technology and logic. I don't know, Musk said finally, his voice quieter now. Maybe you're right. Maybe faith is more than just belief in a higher power. Maybe it asks about something bigger than ourselves, something that keeps us grounded. But I don't think it asks something we can solve with technology. Peter looked up at him, as though expecting a different answer. He didn't seem disappointed, but there was a glimmer of understanding in his eyes. So what's the point of all the technology, then, if we don't know what we're really supposed to be doing? If we don't know if we're doing the right thing, what are we really building? Musk's gaze shifted to the church behind them, the towering spires reaching towards the sky. For a brief moment, he seemed lost in thought, as if the question had taken him somewhere far deeper. His eyes flicked back to Peter. Maybe it asks not about knowing what we're supposed to be doing, he said. Maybe it asks about trying anyway. We can have all the answers, and we can always know what's right. But if we don't try, we'll never know what we could become. Peter stood there, processing the words. His young mind was still trying to make sense of it all. He wasn't sure if he agreed or not, but there was something in Musk's voice, something that spoke of a belief in the human spirit, in the idea that we could always improve, even if we didn't have all the answers. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The city hummed quietly around them, the church standing like an ancient witness to the conversation unfolding. And as Peter looked up at Elon Musk, he realized that the answers weren't always simple, but sometimes it was the questions themselves that mattered most. The silence between Peter and Elon felt heavier now, as if the weight of their conversation had settled into the very air they breathed. For a moment, it seemed like time had slowed. The bustling world around them continued as if nothing extraordinary was happening. But within the circle of their interaction, everything was at a standstill. Peter's next question hung in the air, almost too big for words. So, if everything we're doing isn't about knowing the right answers, then what's the point of it all? Why do we keep pushing if we're so unsure, if we might be wrong? Peter asked, his voice quieter now, as though the enormity of the question had finally sunk in. Alan stood still for a second, his mind racing as he realized the direction this conversation was taking. He had spent his whole career building rockets to take humanity to Mars, creating AI to shape the future, and pushing the boundaries of what was possible. But now, here was a child, asking questions that shook him to his core. He had always prided himself on being a man of reason, a man who didn't indulge in what he considered fantasies. And yet, here was Peter, pointing out the very contradiction of it all. If there was no ultimate answer, no clear path, was all this effort truly worth it? Peter, Alan began, struggling to find the words, his usual confidence faltering for a moment. I don't know if we have all the answers. I can promise you that. I don't know if everything we're doing is going to work. But what I do know is that if we don't try, we'll never know what's possible. We're human, we're flawed, but we can create things that make the world better. Peter watched him, his gaze unwavering. The boy was no longer a mere child asking questions. There was a sharpness in his eyes now, a sense of maturity far beyond his years. He wasn't just asking questions, he was challenging Ellen to confront his own beliefs. I think, Peter said slowly, that you're trying to prove something to yourself. You're afraid of not being enough, of not doing enough, so you keep building, keep working, because it's the only way you know how to answer the question of why we're here. Alan's face tightened, a flash of vulnerability breaking through his usual composure. It was a momentary crack, but Peter had seen it. The man who had conquered technology, who had built empires, was now facing a question he couldn't answer with just his intellect. I am not afraid, Alan said quickly, though the words seemed forced. I just believe in the future, that's all. But Peter wasn't done. He looked Ellen straight in the eye and asked the one question that would leave a mark on him forever. What if the future is already here, Ellen? What if the answer isn't in what we can build, but in how we live now? Alan asked, breath caught in his throat. The question landed like a punch. It wasn't a question of technology. It wasn't about Mars or electric cars. It was about something far more fundamental. In that moment, for the first time, Elon Musk wasn't sure how to respond. His mind, usually sharp and calculating, seemed to stall. The future he had been relentlessly pursuing, the future he had poured every ounce of his being into, suddenly felt distant, almost irrelevant. The tension in the air was palpable. Peter's simple question had shattered the fortress of certainty Alan had built around himself for years. And for the first time, he wondered, was it enough to build a better world if we didn't know how to live in it? The world around them seemed to disappear. The busy street, the passing cars, the noise of everyday life, it all faded away. There was only the boy and the men, locked in a silent battle of ideas. And the weight of that battle was something neither of them could ignore. It was a question that neither of them could answer, at least not in that moment. But in that shared silence, something had shifted. They were no longer just two people from different worlds. They were two souls, struggling with the same fundamental uncertainty, the search for meaning in a world that didn't offer clear answers. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Alan spoke again, his voice softer this time. I think he began, his words uncertain. Maybe you ray right. Maybe it's not about what we can build, but about what we can become. But I still believe in progress. Peter nodded, his expression unreadable. And I think we can do both, he said. We can build and we can live well. Maybe that's the answer we've been missing. With that, the conversation ended. The moment passed, but neither of them would ever be the same. As Peter walked away, his footsteps echoing softly against the stone pavement, he couldn't help but feel a sense of something profound having shifted within him. He had asked the questions that no one dared to ask, questions that had cut through the facade of certainty and left the space between him and Elon Musk filled with a deeper understanding of the complexities of life. Alan, too, stood in silence for a moment longer, watching Peter's retreating figure. The boy's innocence, his courage to question the very essence of their existence, had left a lasting impact on him. For so long, Alan had been caught in the rush to push humanity forward, to build something bigger and better. But in that single moment, he was reminded of something far more important, the power of asking the right questions, the power of reflection. It was easy to get lost in the pursuit of success, in the pursuit of progress. It was easy to believe that if we just kept building, just kept innovating, everything would eventually fall into place. But what Peter had reminded him was that progress meant nothing if it didn't lead to a better life, a life worth living. And maybe, just maybe, true progress didn't lie solely in technology, in the invention of new gadgets, or in the race to reach Mars. Perhaps the true measure of progress was in how we treated each other, in how we learned to live in harmony with the world around us, in how we lived with intention, with purpose, and with compassion. In that brief exchange, Elon Musk, the tech mogul, the visionary, had been stripped of his usual defenses. For the first time, he saw the world not through the lens of innovation alone, but through the lens of human connection, of values that extended beyond intellect and achievement. It was a humbling experience, one that had cracked open a part of him he hadn't known was there. Peter, too, had changed in ways he would never fully understand. A simple question, asked with innocence and honesty, had the power to pierce through the complexities of life and reveal a fundamental truth. We are all in search of meaning. We all want to feel that our lives have purpose, that our actions matter. And in that search, we must ask the difficult questions. We must challenge the status quo. We must not be afraid to confront the contradictions within ourselves and in the world around us. It is only through this honest reflection, this willingness to question, that we can truly evolve. Alan's journey was far from over. He would continue to push the boundaries of technology, to reach for the stars. But now, he knew that the path to progress wasn't just about what he could build. It was about what kind of world he wanted to create, and what kind of future he wanted to leave behind. For Peter, the questions would never stop. But they would never be questions born out of doubt or fear. They would be questions born out of a deep desire to understand, to make sense of the world, and to make it a better place. And so, the story didn't end here. It was only the beginning. A beginning where the pursuit of knowledge, the quest for truth, and the courage to challenge everything we know would lead us to a future filled not just with innovation, but with wisdom, compassion, and meaning. In the end, it wasn't about finding the right answers, it was about asking the right questions. And in that simple truth, both Peter and Alan discovered something far more powerful than anything technology could offer: the power of reflection, of connection, and of living a life of intention. As we move forward in our own lives, let us remember that it's not the answers we find that matter most, but the questions we ask. And when we ask those questions with honesty, with courage, and with a genuine desire to make the world a better place, we are, in that very moment, changing the world for the better. The future isn't just built with technology, it's built with our intentions, with our hearts, and with our shared humanity.